I'm Ali Zendrian, founder of AtoZ Communications, and this is the Brand Stories podcast. This is where we talk about everything related to marketing, branding, and public relations. This week, we have Ryan Dow of Reframe RIA. He explains the ways that operationally he can assist founders and leaders achieve their goals, in addition to determining best practices for marketing. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's been a pleasure meeting you through a client that we share, and now we get to share all that knowledge with the rest of the world.
Let's do it.
So the first question that I ask everybody is, what's their favorite brand and why?
I thought long and hard about it, and Whoop, if you've ever heard of them, the fitness health trackers. It's something I've been wearing for about 6 years now, but their goal is to unlock human performance, and they recently added and health span. This actually aligns quite well with our client we collaborate on, Zach Rodriguez, is how he combines health and wealth. But I think why Whoop attracts me so much is they just feel very authentic, and they feel like they're challenging the norms, but it doesn't seem fake. And I think that's what's so great about it, is people that lean into what makes them different and really understand that messaging and understand they're not going to be for everyone. They've been knocked for years that it's not a watch. It doesn't have, like, you can't tell time. It performance and fitness first and foremost and only. And I think by leaning into that, they've gotten such a good audience and attracted a number of fans that they probably wouldn't have otherwise, because they would have just worn an Apple Watch. So I would say Whoop is my favorite brand because of their authenticity and also just like what they're trying to do from a message standpoint.
Well, Whoop, there it is, I guess.
There we go.
I feel like that's dating back at least to my childhood. But so that's interesting, because I think that kind of messaging aligns with a lot of the work that you're doing. I feel like you're trying to bring out that authenticity and what makes somebody special. So if you don't mind sharing with everybody who doesn't know you yet, what kind of work do you do?
So first off, I'm Ryan Dow. I came from an Air Force background, randomly found my way into software and then financial advising. And really, as I started my own company, I wanted to combine all those skills to serve advisors, because I think they're doing such meaningful work and making changes for clients' lives. So I run Reframe RIA. I view myself as the operational optimizer for financial advisors. It's really taking their business strategy, their operations, technology, things they shouldn't be wasting their time and energy on, and frankly, they don't want to be spending their time and energy on this, giving that to me so they can go serve clients better and first and foremost, and not have to worry about the stuff on the back end. So what I do is I focus on solo to smaller advisory teams, really diving down into what we were discussing before, starting from the foundation level of who are you trying to serve, what makes them different, and then we go about crafting their service calendar to say, what activities and deliverables do you need to give that type of prospect or client to set you apart from the advisor? So where our worlds collide is really, for the financial advisor, the market is saturated, in my opinion. And if you want to really reach a core audience, figuring out who you are and who you want to serve and tailoring your services, messaging, and everything else around that will be so powerful to set yourself apart from the other advisors.
Absolutely. And I was going to say that is really the way that we meet, because the way that I would want to start working with a client is, okay, so what's your story? Explain to me why it is that you do what you're doing and why you're so great at it, because that's what we need to leverage into the market. And it's interesting that sometimes it's those little things that you would never think to say, whether it's that hobby that you have or whatnot that makes you different than somebody else, that then catapults you. I don't know about you, but there are so many financial advisor websites that have like the couple walking on the beach or the lighthouse, and like, okay, well, yeah, but you don't want to look just like that, because otherwise, why should anybody pick your lighthouse as opposed to anybody else's lighthouse?
And I think one thing I try to say to clients too is, I know people really hammer on having a niche or target market in the advising space, and I am a firm believer in that, but I will say you can be successful at both. And I call it more of the, you want to be the Walmart of financial advising. You want to be a generalist. You want just kind of anyone that walks in your door. You can serve 500 to 1,000 households, great. But who I fit more with, and where our work happens with people like Zach, is they're really trying to target 50 maybe 100 households, but go really deep and have a great understanding of the nuances in their life to really bring their planning to the next level. So I think you can be successful in both, but in our businesses that are very people oriented and service oriented, I am a firm believer in you have to be different and be human. If we're selling widgets, sure, just blast everything around to the general population. But we're really in the business of the human connection. And I think being your genuine self and being different is honestly what's going to make you succeed.
Absolutely. So, speaking of those deliverables, so what are some of the things that, whether it's Zach or other clients that you've worked for, that you've helped them create? Because I think in some cases, advisors might not even realize that this is something that you ought to be doing.
I'll step back because this is a great question. Is so many advisors I work with are frankly just smarter than I am and better at knowing what the client wants. And really what I've learned, and I think where I can be most helpful is I spent my time as an advisor in the solo or smaller advisory shops where you see a lot of the pain points, and stepping to this side of the table. One of the biggest areas those types of individuals want and need, whether they know it or not, is just really that co-collaborator. They have so many good ideas in their head, but they don't have the time and energy to actually put them into practice and operationalize them. So my role is really just with people like Zach, having our monthly collaboration sessions, quarterly planning, getting those ideas from him. He actually just said, hey, can we have a parking lot in our collaboration space so I can just dump my ideas at any point? And it's really just giving them the avenue to be their creative self. So things that I help them produce is our foundation is really doing an exercise around our first workshop is a brainstorming, sticky note, planning exercise really of what's working and what's not from an administrative side, client-facing side, and technology side. So just brain dump everything that you have. And that's our starting point. And typically we have about 3 core themes and about 15 to 20 action items that we have to start off of that we can prioritize. But from there, the main deliverable that we'll have in the first month or two is from understanding your target market and who you want to serve. We can be creative in what your service calendar, so how you're serving them throughout the year, the activities, the deliverables, the planning meetings, to make that proactive and also valuable to the client. But where I really challenge my advisors is this industry is so fantastic because you can have a lot of freedom, you can be your own boss, and you can make a good amount of money. So let's shape this calendar to meet and exceed your client expectations, but also fit the life that you want to live. I'll say one quick story with Zach is I think he's a perfect example of this, and why I appreciate working with him is he's focusing on hard charging millennials that combine health and wealth. And that is him, one. So he's a genuine portion of that audience that he knows he's creating deliverables to meet planning activities for his life, which gives him that credibility. But he's just so good at understanding who he wants to serve so we can operationalize that in the service calendar. And that helps me from an operations and tech side say what workflows do we need to deliver so you don't have to think about what to do next for your clients and prospects. But where, again, our worlds collide is I think that just makes your marketing piece so much easier. So you can easily craft a one-pager around why you're different, why a prospect should choose you. Throughout the year, have those common touch points through newsletters or monthly videos. And really, it's an easy marketing campaign for yourself because you're being yourself, you know who you want to serve, and you have it mapped out. And it's not something you really need to fake or think about each and every day.
Yes, absolutely. So I love so much of what you said. One of the things, though, that I really appreciate is the fact that you're giving the advisor the chance to have that creativity and to think about their business, because as a solopreneur, basically myself, I feel like you just go. It's got to get done. And then you realize that, wait, if I'm not working on the business, if I'm not steadily trying to get better, if I'm not doing those things to advance myself, I'm also not advancing in terms of the client as well. So I appreciate the fact that you're giving that permission to work on the business instead of just being in the business.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a solopreneur as well, so I have the struggle. And today was actually a look in the mirror moment because not to completely do a shameless plug, but I do a Tuesday Take series on LinkedIn. And today's was about thinking 10x. So basically thinking big about your business. And the things that we struggle with and why I'm trying to work with these types of advisors, because I struggle with it in my own business, is we're bogged down in the day-to-day, client service, the admin tasks. It is hard to make time to think of what's my business going to be in 2, 3, 10 years from now, and how do I start laying that foundation to get there? So I think, like you alluded to, it's me learning from building my own brand and my own business too, to say, what do I wish I had when I was an advisor, or what do I wish I have now to propel me forward? And really, I try to be that for the advisory team. So just learning from my own pain points and things that I wish I could have, and trying to just be useful any way I can to that solo or smaller advisory team.
Nice. How would you encourage those smaller teams? Because I mean, and maybe this is just me, but I feel like sometimes, whether it's not thinking that you deserve it or almost feeling guilty that you're asking for help, there's some sort of emotional or mental thing that's going on that you just like, you don't do it, even though logically you know, but if I outsource this or if I did this, it would get better. How do you get people past that?
I think it's a hard one, because I think there's two things at play for me. I'll say one is the ego side of like, anyone here that starts their own business or tries to do something, we inherently have some sort of an ego, some bigger than others, but like, hey, I have a skill or something that, or a product that someone will pay for. So I think it's getting over that hump of like, I'm the only one that can do this, or I'm going to need to handhold people through it. It's like, people that you surround yourself with and hire are very competent people, more than likely, and can probably do it as good or better than you in a lot of areas. So I think going into like the other portion would be, people are just tired. They don't have the time and energy. They're like, I got in this business to serve clients. 50% of my time is doing paperwork and workflows and all this other stuff. I am at the point I need someone to just, for my sanity, but also to propel the business forward. So I think for me, the message that resonated, just because I felt these pain points, was the co-collaborator, giving them time and energy back, really just giving them the avenue to have that business partner at a fraction of the cost and the fraction of the time. They want to be in business by themselves or lead the charge. They just want another individual to have these types of conversations with. So I think what's resonated and gotten over the hump with people is just, what are the things you do not like doing or just don't want to do? Or how do I help you refer to people that can take that off your plate, so you can actually get time back to either grow your business, spend time with family, or whatever you want to do, and at the same time focus on the things you like doing and you're really good at.
So you saying getting back that time and being able to do what you want with it, I feel like that's also kind of the message that AI is giving. So how much do you feel like you're leveraging onto that and sort of doing this at the right moment in time when people are hearing this and embracing that a little more?
Yeah, that's a great question, because for me, I do hear a lot of doomsday around AI. It's going to replace all of our jobs. White collar jobs are going away. They can do it cheaper and better and quicker. And I do think that this type of technology has the opportunity to upend industries. But I would argue that that's been human history. We've evolved over time, and whether we like it or not, we're really good at finding something to do as humans. I have faith in us that we will find something for us to do. So I think in my day-to-day job, I actually want us to leverage it as much as possible, of automate what we can, but also like in growing my business and what I've done for advisors is I've not shied away from using tools like Claude to be our creative co-collaborators. Of, even if we have marketing experts or PR experts like yourself, it's like we can get the human to human interaction and that empathy and that drive from us, but we can also use those tools to really bring us to the next level. Or deliverables that might have taken us an hour or two to make now take 30 seconds. And now we start stacking that hour or two each time on top of each other. That's a lot of time and energy back. So I honestly am bullish on, I'm a little bit more optimistic than most, I would say, of, I think it's a great tool that we do need to be conscious of how it's going to be affecting our industries. but I think it's a great enabler for us, and it allows us to be in these sorts of rooms where that it will hopefully give us a lot more time and energy back. I say that a lot in this, but it's really about that time and energy of that human to human nature of our businesses. I hope that allows us more time to do that instead of just sitting in front of our computer screens, making documents, checking emails. Let the computers handle that so we can do this.
Exactly. Very well put. So to throw another shout out to Zach, I feel like he is positioned very much differently than a lot of other advisors. Is there any advice that you would give to the advisor who says to themselves, literally, I think if you put me in a room and you stood me next to 10, 15 other people, I probably do exactly the same thing? How they find themselves and what makes themselves special?
Say don't force it as well. If you are trying to still either figure out who you want to serve or what makes you different, like I'm not saying to just jump to something, but if you are having those challenges, I would say that's where people like myself or other people in my space can be helpful. Because I think I joke sometimes, but it's like I'm a coach, I'm a consultant, I'm an implementer, but I would also say like sometimes you're like a therapist to talk through some of the challenges and like what they're trying to do. So I would really say like don't force it and don't freak out. I think that will evolve over time, but lean on other advisors that have been through this. Lean on professionals that work with advisors to understand what probably makes you different. Because I would challenge you that it might be a hobby, like you said. It might be how you think. It might be what your spouse does or something like that that you can connect with that other people just don't. And I think for me, it's really just about you will have something that's different about you and as you evolve. And where I see a lot of advisors get too stuck, it's like, who do you serve? It's the classic, they're doctors, dentists, business owners. It's like, that's great. And I'm not saying not to do that, but a lot of people pay lip service to it and they don't do that next step. They don't say, what types of deliverables make me different? What type of messaging makes me different? I just put on my website that I serve these people, but really I do nothing different than a financial planner. And tying that back to Zach, I think that's where he is so fantastic because he does have that messaging of like who he resonates with and what makes him different. But he goes that extra step because we have planning deliverables in the spring and fall, where in the spring, instead of the typical advisor that's like, hey, we're going to do your annual review. We're going to talk about investments. We're going to talk about insurance. Not dissing that, but why Zach is different and who he can resonate with is it's mind, body, soul, and finance framework. And like talking about the intake of that year of what are your goals across these areas and how are we building this into your plan where it's not just investments. And throughout the year, he'll continually provide education and updates and improvements on what we're doing from that framework. And then in the fall, we're putting together a deliverable around longevity planning of, hey, if we're living to age 100 and planning that out, how do we optimize your financial life, but also like your mental and health life over that span? So to your original point, Zach is in a unique position where he had that from the start, I feel. But for those advisors that are struggling with it, I really would say don't force it, but think creatively. It doesn't need to be an industry. It could be a persona of a person. It could be a hobby that you have. But really just fundamentally, it's a way of connecting with people and you striking up a good conversation and maybe putting a creative spin on financial planning that incorporates that.
Love it. So if you don't mind my asking, in terms of, so you were saying everybody says I work with doctors, lawyers, and business owners. Do you feel like then we need to get better at niching down to the I work with residents? And those are, I don't work with doctors who are more established, I just work with residents. Or do you feel like we need to realize that there's so much of the population that we need to serve and that there is going to be a lot of overlap?
I would say that this is something I learned from an advisor in my network, Eric Gibson, is over time, he was a generalist like a lot of advisors and just found that he resonated a lot with a pretty specific market. I mean, he's a middle-aged white man, not to take anything away from him, but he connects very well with 62 to 67-year-old women. That is who he started to plan for. And I think one thing he said is we plan our services and deliverables and calendar around that type of person and their challenges and their needs. But that doesn't mean we're not going to take people in. And I actually went through this exercise with another advisor I work with recently of I've really liked her transition of she kind of started up here and we've been whittling it down ever so slightly into her target market. So now it's very refined around 15 or 5 to 20 million in revenue for business owners looking for an exit the next 3 to 10 years. But like what we've said is these are the services we're going to be providing. But when you have that messaging and marketing and someone else that's a lawyer or a doctor, whoever else comes to you, you can be confident in the value you can provide to them. And if they still want to use your services, fantastic. But you're not having to redefine your workflow, your deliverables 20 different times for 20 different types of clients, wasting your time and energy. It's, does that prospect or client fit into what you're doing for your type of target market? So where I really want to get to with that portion is I don't think you need to say, I'm only going to do residents, because they're obviously going to mature into a different stage. And if you don't have that next level of planning, they're going to go find someone else. But I think there's nuances that you can do in niching down to say, like, these are the unique planning activities and deliverables I have targeting this specific pain point. But if other people resonate with that type of planning or just who you are as an advisor, you can still onboard those types of people. It's just not having 20 different processes for 20 different people.
You know, I gotta say, I'm trying to hold it together, but internally I'm like, God, that's like so freaking brilliant. You don't realize. So, I mean, I'm in business for myself now a little over 2 years, and I feel like it took how long, and even you just saying that, to be like, you're right. How many times when you take a client and they're not really exactly where you need them to be, or you're not totally a right fit, you just wind up doing so many crazy extra things to make it work instead of just saying, you know what, you would probably be better served by X, Y, and Z. God bless and good for you, but you know, this isn't going to work. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that.
And it's easy to say right now, right? But like when you're growing your business or anything else, I empathize with all the business owners out there, because as we grow, there is that fine line between being picky and growing our business and having to juggle that. I think if you ask anyone that started their business, there's probably a few that they were like, yeah, I probably just took that one because I needed some money at the time. Let's call a spade a spade. But to your point is, as you grow throughout the business and as you refine more, I think it's very healthy for both sides of the equation to have, this is what Ryan can offer, this is what Allie can offer. If I'm not the best fit for you, like, I'll either help you find someone or go find someone that's more of a fit for you. And it's really just a win-win all around. And I think I've learned in the business world of course, we're both trying to grow our business, but I think there's enough wins in business to go around to make a lot of us successful. So I don't try to fret too much on, I need every single person to fit into my type of service and business. I want to stay true to myself. And this is maybe naive, but I would say, if I end up failing, I want to make sure I did it in a way that fit like who I thought I was. I don't want to fake myself to be successful. And I still hold true to that of, I tell that, I mean, to my advisors as well, is just, I think in understanding yourself and building the business around what you believe in, it is going to make you more successful over time, but you could have some struggles at the beginning because there's other people out there that aren't as picky and they might win some business in the short term. But I think the longevity of what you have to offer by being your genuine self will make it more sustainable.
Love that. So for anybody who might be thinking to themselves, Ryan sounds amazing, I wonder if we're a fit, what would you say besides solopreneur or few advisors? What are some of the other things that they should have or be working toward that would make them suitable to work with you?
Yeah, I think just like even advisors outside of this, like professionals like yourself that are adjacent to the advisory space, or my background being in public sector work, software, it's really just, if you want to have a good conversation and hopefully share information with each other to bring your business or product or service to the next level, I honestly welcome that. It gives me a good thought exercise in how I want to grow my business and serve advisors. So I'd really just say, if you're a business owner or in those sorts of spaces, would welcome a conversation to see if there's ways of creating win-wins or working together. But from an advisory space, I just think that, of course, the smaller advisory teams would love a conversation. Even if we're not a right fit, I think sharing ideas and collaborating is a great way to help both of us. But for professionals like yourself, the marketing experts, the COOs, the CTOs, those sorts of people, that work with wealth management and financial advisory teams, I would love to find some partnerships. My next phase is going back to something we said before of how I talk about saving time and energy for the advisors. I really want to find partners that complement my weaknesses in marketing, operations, technology, and the lot, because I know if we can collaborate and work together, we'll end up providing a lot better services for those types of advisors. And organically, I think that just grows over time. So I know that's a lot of people that I'm willing to talk to, but it's really, I just want to meet with good people that are trying to do good things and find ways of seeing us all succeed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also you're a great guy to have a conversation with, as I can attest to. So yes, people should just have conversations because they're delightful. But that was also so smart about what you were saying. So I think there's something about whether it's the smaller teams or the solopreneurs that you get a little more savvy and are able to create those kind of partnerships where it really is like, I just want the best for you. So whatever it is, if we need to bring in so and so or we need extra expertise, like get all the hands in and let's all do it. I appreciate that ingenuity of entrepreneurs like that. So thank you for encapsulating all that.
And I just think, like both of us, I have a soft spot for the solopreneurs or entrepreneurs that are building something that they believe in, and especially the smaller teams. So if there's any way I can collaborate or enable them, that's really just where my passion lies.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, and I'm looking forward to hearing about all the great conversations you're about to have.
Likewise.
Thank you.